You're listening to Barbell Logic, brought to you by Barbell Logic Online Coaching, where each week we take a systematic walk through strength training and the refining power of voluntary hardship. Hey, welcome to the Barbell Logic podcast. Just a couple curmudgeon-y old guys.
I'm
talking about
super curmudgeonly. It's the Friday after Thanksgiving today, and
I mean, not to you guys listening, but it is to us.
For us. And when I'm in charge, it's going to be illegal for any retail business to be open on the Thanksgiving or the Friday after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about the Friday. The Thursday is infuriating to me.
When I worked at a grocery store 1 million years ago, and the grocery store was open till about, I think it was open till noon. It was a 24-hour grocery store, but on Thanksgiving it was open till noon. If you forgot some brown sugar, they were open,
Yeah.
And then it was closed. That was it. It was over, and we didn't open again. I think it was the Saturday after Thanksgiving, and the Friday after Thanksgiving used to be just a working man's holiday. If you worked for the electric company, you gotta work. If you're a nurse, people can't let people die. But
yeah, right.
Golly, if it can wait,
everybody else,
we let it wait.
Sure.
And we need to restore that. It's ridiculous. There were stores open for. Best Buy was open Thursday. It's terrible.
All day yesterday. Well, yeah, they start their Black Friday sales at noon on Thursday now.
Guys, let's knock this shit off.
And then even then, here's the problem. I don't think the in-laws were at our house yesterday, and I don't think they went shopping yesterday, but they're all going shopping today. Like, dude, you can't. Again, just going up the road to Lowe's to get Christmas trees at 8 a.m. this morning was a giant pain in the ass. And I was like, I told Rachel, we're not stepping foot in the store. We're going in through the garden center. We're coming out through the garden center. That's it. We're going straight home. But all day yesterday, after we had Thanksgiving dinner, all of my in-laws sat around on the couch, all looking at their phones and iPads and trying to scout out what deals. So rather than talk about, 94-year-old granny who's still got a great mind on her and can tell stories, and rather than talk about her or hear stories or whatever, we're checking out to see what Target and Walmart and Best Buy have today.
Yep. Ugh. No, guys, they're taking our lives from us. They've turned everything into some sort of goddamn consumer action.
That's infuriating.
The Friday after Thanksgiving, you used to watch. Maybe you watch some Charlie Brown
man.
Play cards.
Dude, when was the last time you saw It's a Wonderful Life?
Never seen it.
Okay, listen, I promise you, I need you to watch it.
I can't watch it.
Yes, why?
I don't like watching movies. I fucking hate it.
I know, but yet that's not true at all. You watch True Grit and you cry. Dude, I'm telling you right now, no movie makes me cry in a good way more than It's a Wonderful Life. It is amazing. And it's actually even better the second time around because you know what you're seeing. It's oh my God, it sounds cheesy, right? I know probably the basic premise of It's a Wonderful Life. It's not about the cheesiness, dude. This guy is, oh my God, Jimmy Stewart's so good in it. And it's just his whole life, he was one of those guys that was he wanted to leave this little Mayberry town.
Right.
And he did everything he could to leave, but he kept fulfilling his promises to his family, or he would pick up the slack when there needed to be, and he never got to go. And there's a run on the banks. His family owns a little savings and loan, and there's a run on the banks as he's leaving on his honeymoon with his new wife, and they've got all the cash from the gifts from wedding, and they've got all this cash they're going to use on the honeymoon, and instead he goes in and he basically tides everybody over I'm about to get choked up right now. He takes his honeymoon money and he sends his wife home, and he stands up and he saves the family business.
Well, see, this is how much of a jerk I am. I'm like, fuck that bank. Why weren't their reserves up? Why didn't they have the cash? It's mismanagement. Of course he should have made it up out of his pocket. No, really. Fuck that shit. It's because it's a savings and loan. It's Great Depression propaganda. Oh, that money's yours and yours and yours. And when you go to your local thing, it's not that they mismanaged it. It's that it's your fault as a depositor. And you guys, it's bullshit. That's why I don't want to see it. I've never gotten in that fight with you about it. It's Great Depression propaganda.
You just literally just ruined my favorite movie of all time. It's not about that.
Oh, Hollywood's
that piece.
They're like the CIA, which is pre-CIA. Like the Federal Reserve's like, hey, Metro Goldwyn Mayer, we got these bank runs going on here. We need a little heart tugging community feel good shit, so we can get these bank runs to stop because we've mismanaged everything.
It's a CIA backed heart tugging
Federal Reserve. I bet we could go. I bet we could find out. Bunch of propaganda. Oh, small town. And, it's your money and it's your money. We fucked up. We don't have your money, but it's your money and your.
That's not what the movie's about, though. The movie's about this guy.
So when you're Ma and Pa Kettle, and you go to downtown Stigler, Oklahoma, and they don't have your money. Like, well, I did go to the show and watch it for a dime, and I saw that it's your money and your money, so I'm not going to kill the fucking banker because he doesn't have my money.
I get it.
Which should
have
happened.
Why you don't
They should have
really,
killed him.
is that the bank's fault or is that
It's the bank's fault?
It's not the person's fault that's got the. Well, I know, but you argue about the.
It's the bank's fault.
Well, and then you got the mortgage from the bank. So whose fault is it?
It's the bank's fault. They shouldn't have wrote the mortgage. They don't have the money. They can't do it.
Now, wait a minute. There isn't a single bank on earth that has all the reserves they need to pay out all of the loans. That's how they make the money.
Right. But you don't loan out every motherfucking penny. So that if you go down there and get a little walking around money, there's no money in the till. The reserves aren't high enough.
Well, I don't.
So the owner's son needs to get in his pocket.
There's actually a really good. I know we're not huge fans of NPR.
It's the
podcast, but the Planet Money. You ever listen to the Planet Money podcast?
A long time ago.
So
is that with Kai Risdale?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's a different story each week. They interviewed a guy that talked about the post 2008 crash, the real estate crash, and I don't remember what the number is, but the number is so astronomically low that if the government forced the banks to hold, like right now they have to hold, I think it's like, I'm going to get the number wrong.
It's 10%.
It's like 3, no, but they only have to hold like 3%.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
He's like, if it literally went from 3 to 6, it would essentially guarantee that it wouldn't, like he showed like it can't guarantee, but the mathematical probability change in literally making them hold 6% of the reserves. Because he went and showed, like, well, we had this massive economic crash, but like, what percentage of mortgages actually defaulted? Well,
very small.
30% of the mortgages didn't default.
No, I mean,
it was single
5.
digits for sure. Yeah, right. Low mid single digits. So therefore, if you had 6% in, he does the math. It's just it's ridiculous.
I told you my story on this show.
Thanks for ruining my favorite movie, by the way.
Oh, it's propaganda.
No, 100%. That's not what you have got to watch the movie first. I get it. You'll get mad about that part, but it's the
people that wrote it are geniuses. There's no question. And Jimmy Stewart's great, but it's propaganda for the right time. That's what it was.
Well, it's probably true.
You're in Guyman, Oklahoma, and you go down to the F&M Bank down there, and they don't have your money. Well, it's your money, and I loaned it to Farmer John, and it's you. Sure. It's the community. Yeah, but I gave you my money. You don't have it, you asshole.
Right. Well, I mean, like, how I don't need a number, but like, how much money do you keep in a bank, right? Like, just up to what is insured, the insured amount?
Well, yes, and
right.
I have about 5 years worth of living expenses in the bank.
In the actual liquid, in a checking or savings account or money market account that you can write checks off of.
Yeah.
Like that, right. I get it. So that's about how much is the top end insured.
No, we got to have a couple.
It's a little more than that.
We got to have a few accounts to
right. So you got to spread it out over a few accounts. Yep. And then outside of that, though, you're like, man, I'm not putting $2 million in an account in any bank ever.
Oh no,
crazy idea, right? Yeah.
I mean, it depends. It depends on how much of your net worth $2 million is. If you got $200 million. You can't be having 42 bank accounts to spread it out and minimize your risk.
Sure.
But
why is when people put money in? I'm going to show how dumb I am. When people put money in like Swiss accounts and offshore accounts, is that really just to hide tax sheltering the money? It doesn't necessarily, like, how good is the protection on that money? the security on that money? Any idea?
I don't really know. It used to be ironclad. Like Swiss banking was like the privacy and security of those banks was just the best in the world.
Right.
Yeah, it gets a reputation, for people doing it for tax dodges. But the truth, I mean, that's probably part of it. But the truth of it is, like high reserve rates. Maybe, your money's there. I mean,
right.
Ray the plumber says
they got $1 trillion of cash. Reserve. Or whatever.
Ray the plumber was on a bank board of directors during the resolution trust period when the savings and loans all went belly up in the 80s.
Yeah.
And he reads those bank balance sheets. He reads the bank's balance sheet every quarter
of where he keeps his money.
Yeah, and he's like, "Boy, I moved." And I'm like, "Where'd you move to?" And he told me, and I was like, "Well, that's where I'm at." And he's like, "They're strong as a Bermuda onion, man."
Right.
Yeah, but they need to have cash on hand. But if they've got 6% that they're keeping on hand, and they can reduce that by half, probably makes their margins go up.
Of course, it does.
15%.
Sure.
But it's irresponsible.
But the risk goes up, right?
Yep. Irresponsible. Yeah.
Agreed.
So I keep about 5 years worth of living expenses in cash, and everything else is in stocks because they talk about all this asset allocation stuff. The older you get, the more.
Sure.
More bonds and cash you need. My theory is that if everything goes south, it ought to be back in 5 years. So it won't require me to. I won't need to sell any stocks for 5 years while there's a recovery coming.
At your age right now.
Well, I think forever. Like if you're 80 years old,
if you're 80, you do the same thing.
I think if you're 80 years old and you got 5 years worth of living expenses in cash. And there's a stock market downturn.
Then you're probably right. It always comes back within 5.
And if it doesn't, you got bigger problems anyway.
Right. That's right. Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I get it.
And then everything I buy issues a dividend too, so it should be replenishing my cash at least some.
Right. And then you reinvest all your dividends though, or no?
Well, maybe. I don't do. Do what they call
historically.
Trips. I don't. They got this many. Companies have this program they call DRIPs, dividend reinvestment programs.
You don't take your dividend from Coke and put it right back into Coke.
No, it just goes in the account and then and then
you do whatever you want
to
with
buy.
It. Yeah, I get it. Right,
a couple times a year or whatever.
Sure.
And I have to keep some of those dividends on hand to pay the taxes. Ugh.
Even more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jimmy Stewart's dad screwed the pooch.
Not literally Jimmy Stewart's dad.
The character's
the guy
dad
that plays his dad. Yeah.
Screwed the pooch. Yeah. And then he had to, sacrifice his honeymoon out because his dad mismanaged
it wasn't
everything.
Just his honeymoon. He basically sacrificed his whole life in the movie. That's kind of the deal. Like over and over and over again, he basically gives everything back to his family and the town and this business. And his brother goes and becomes like a war hero, a World War II hero. He's a fighter pilot, and so his little brother's going to run the family business,
right?
But his little brother gets drafted and has to go fight, and so Jimmy's like, "I guess."
How's this not propaganda?
I love it.
See, I can't watch anything. I can't enjoy anything.
You can't do it. Yeah, I can just get lost and shit like that. It just doesn't bother me as bad anymore.
Bank. So, I've told you the story about me going down to the bank in September 2008, and they didn't have any money.
No. That actually happened to you. You actually went down to withdraw money?
Yeah, I bought a business and I was going to pay cash for it. And the closing date, I think it was September 16th.
Right. So you were pulling out a pretty good chunk of money.
Yes.
And they were like, Mr. Hambrick?
Yeah. And I told them, I'm going to need to pick up a cashier's check on this date. It was either the 15th or the 16th of September 2008. We could go look up what day it is because it was the day after Bear Stearns went out of business.
Right.
And I said, I've got a closing and I got to go pick up a cashier's check and I'll be down there at 10 o'clock and please have that ready for me. All right, Mr. Hambrick. Well, I went down there. I said, here to pick up my cashier's check. We said, we don't have it. And I said, well, you better hurry because I got my closing. I'll wait. Come on, let's go. And they're like, no, you don't understand. We don't have the money.
Oh, shit.
And they're like, and I'm like, I'm fixing to tear this sucker down, And they're
so what happened?
Well, they're like, we don't want to cause a scene here. They didn't have the money. So I went to, well, I had some money in my personal accounts, and I had some money here and some money there, and I scratched it all together, flipped over the couch cushions, and found enough money, and did the deal. And I wish I had not done the deal. I mean, that's a pretty good sign that bad times are coming. I probably should have went to the closing and tapped out, but went through with it, and it was tough. It took years and years and years to get made whole on that purchase. Yeah. It ended up being well worth it.
Yeah, but it took 10 years to get there.
Yeah, it probably
7 years to
and
get
it should have
there,
been like a 20-month turnaround, you know?
Sure.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Have you watched all those Too Big to Fail? And you watch there's one, I think it's called Hank with Henry Paulson. It's just a documentary, and they just interview him. And I know I'm sure it piss you off too, but like there's a part of me where I'm just like, God damn, how would you like to be? But like, how would you like to be Hank Paulson in the middle of that shit? He wasn't the one. He wasn't the one. I would
carry around a 22 with a silencer, just be shooting people in the head. It's like you lost all.
You'd be like,
you lost all these people's money.
Boom.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Does he have that authority to just summarily execute people in
I don't
a bank
think
crisis?
He did, in fact, but yeah.
See, maybe that's the problem.
Yeah, him and Bernanke and Geithner were all just like. I get it, man. I get it. It's just it's more. It's not even about whether they made the right decision or not. It's like the fucking pressure.
Oh, sure.
That's what I mean. It's just like this. Can you imagine the stress of not just the economy of this country, but probably the world economy, and being like, God damn it, we don't know how bad this is about to get if we make this move. Like literally, you're going to make this little move, and then the dominoes fall, and like, or not, or oof. So I feel for those guys, whether they made the right decision or not. They probably didn't, but whether just for the pressure that they had to deal with.
They kicked the can. Thanks.
They did. They kicked the can.
I just looked it up. It was September 16th of 2008. It was the day after Lehman Brothers. And I was sitting in the lobby of that bank, and they had CNN or one of those stupid shows on, and they were showing like a sign just taped to the door at the Lehman Brothers offices in Wall Street. And it's like, gone fishing or whatever, whatever it said. I'm sitting there in the bank. My money's not there.
Yep. Everybody's walking out with boxes.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Oh, Big Short. I know it's another movie. You don't watch movies. You haven't seen Big Short?
Mm-mm.
I bet I've seen Big Short 10 times. I think Big Short's the best movie of the past 10 years. It's so fucking good. It's so good. And that's what it's about. It's about these guys that saw it. Michael Burry saw it. He's this autistic guy. You guys get along great. You guys be like best friends. And he saw all this stuff coming before it. And he was like, and he starts shorting.
Right.
Start shorting all the mortgages, all that, and the banks are laughing at him. He's like, also, I need an insurance policy for this. And they were like, on what? He's like, against you guys, because when it goes under, you're not going to be able to pay me off my win on my short. And they're like, this motherfucker's crazy. He's crazy. Nope, he was 100% right.
Yep.
So it was crazy. And it cost he was running a fund. He's got like it wasn't a massive fund. I don't remember what it was. I mean, it was a big fund, but it's like a $2 billion fund, $1.5 billion fund the guy's running. And they lose like, I think it was at least half the money before. He's like, why hasn't it crashed? They're looking at like the mortgage defaults, and they're like, defaults are up, 30% defaults are up. And for some reason, the housing market hasn't crashed yet. What's going on? Well, the SEC's in on it. They're all like,
yep.
This is so gross.
They're
commissioning. And then it finally hits. It finally got bad enough that it hits. But by that time, all his investors are like, give me my fucking money back. He's like, I have complete autonomy. No, we're going to hold it until it crashes. And then it crashes, and it makes them like multi-billion dollars. And he's like, here you go.
And then Geithner's on the phone. He's like, hey, Hollywood, can you make us a feel-good movie about a bank run for the Christmas season?
Is this, we're recording, right? This is just going to be like, this is a Q&A. We're just going on.
It's fine. This
is our post-Thanksgiving. So you've seen did you ever watch Seinfeld when it was out?
A little bit.
You heard of Festivus, right? They had Festivus. It was like the Festivus for the rest of us. Yeah, that's what we're doing. This is our airing of grievances, our post-Thanksgiving airing of grievances.
Yeah. I did a video. It's at scotthambrick.com about Paul Krugman. Krugman tweeted not too long ago that the national debt is nothing because it's money we owe to ourselves. It's just that's patently, that is just absurd at every turn. Right. Only some dick in academia who doesn't do anything could possibly think that you could loan money to yourself.
Right.
And I mean, there's category errors in there. There are accounting errors in there. There are errors. Sure. I mean, it's just patently wrong. And I just got attacked. They're like, where's your Nobel Prize? I'm like, Nobel Prize is clearly a fraud because this guy's a fucking operative.
Right.
Because there's no way. The Chinese own like $1 trillion of this debt. Like, right. It's not like all the national debt is
what he's saying
bonds.
is that all the national debt is American debt to America, America to America.
Well, he's also a globalist, so he thinks that if a Chinese government owns some of our debt, it's all the same. It's a small world after all. Like there's no, strategic military problem in allowing, a foreign power to own some of your debt. There's the whole thing is absurd. But anyway, people, he's got a PhD in economy. What do you have? And I'm like, some fucking sense.
Right.
I hate those guys. He's partly responsible for this. Yeah. So that's what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful for Paul Krugman lying. He's got a Nobel Prize. They give him a little Nobel Prize, and now all the midwits are like, well, it must be true. He's got a Nobel Prize. They gave one to Obama, too, by the way.
Lots of people won Nobel Prizes over the years that turned out to be completely wrong. So it's awesome. It's part of the deal. It's the
Krugman. It's a wonderful life.
Maybe he made that movie.
Well, he probably watched it when he was a little kid, and he's like, that's where he learned everything about economics is from that movie.
This is it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're back to the Black Friday thing.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not about the GDP.
I know.
It's not about the consumer price index. It's not about the profits of the bank entirely. We gotta make decisions around here that lead us to have a better life. That's what we got to do.
Yeah, but you understand the difficulty of, we talked about this with Blake and Katie from Dominion. We're talking to them last week. Like, everybody has to have the Black Friday sale.
No, you don't.
You don't have to, but it is going to hurt your sales if you don't.
Yep.
So you have to choose. Do I or do I not want to sell online coaching memberships and belts and microplates in the week after Thanksgiving? And the difference between us and going to Walmart is that we talked about this, buying a belt. You can get on Dominion and buy a belt in about 4 minutes from your home on your phone while you're taking your post-turkey poop. So it doesn't really sacrifice family time to do that. But to get in your car and go, like, people that would stay, there were people that were in the parking lot at Walmart this morning at 3 a.m. waiting 4 hours for the store to open up or whatever. Like, I don't get.
No, it's not okay. It's not okay. But the consumption, it's what makes the economy go. Krugman says you should borrow money and then spend it, and the money multiplier, and so on, and next thing you know, profit.
What do you do? Because people have to be thinking this, because I'm thinking about it a lot with my family this year. Like, what do you do for Christmas at your family? Like, practically, what does Christmas look like for the Hambricks? I mean, how much of this game do you play? Because you've got a wife and 2 daughters, right? Yeah, us too. But let's be honest with people. Like, what does it look like? You still get your wife a Christmas gift, and you get your daughters.
Yeah. They'll get
gifts.
They'll get clothes and a few small things that they want. One of the girls likes vinyl records. I can imagine that we'd get her a couple of vinyl records or something.
Sure.
Evan's got some things that she's interested in.
But you weren't waiting at Target this morning at 5:30 in the morning.
Charity's been buying stuff when she finds it on sale since last Christmas.
10 months, right, hiding it in the attic.
Yeah,
whatever.
And then Charity and I give each other small things, but every so often she'll get a big piece of jewelry or something for Christmas. But that's not Black Friday stuff,
Sure.
Yeah.
we do about the same. It's pretty small. Matter of fact, like our kids, the stuff it's so like we don't get our kids much, and our like what would you get them? You know, like our kids we don't need anything. And I was thinking about that too. I was thinking about like, you know, everybody's asking me, what do you want for Christmas? I'm like, I don't fucking buy me.
I just want to be left alone.
That's what I told Rachel. Can you buy me peace?
Right. Peace on earth and goodwill for me.
No, I don't want peace on earth and goodwill for men. I want peace for Reynolds. For me. That's all I want. I just want peace for me. You know what would be the best? I want a 600 square foot, maybe 500 square foot off the grid cabin somewhere. That'd be the best gift you could give me, Scott Hambrick. That new farmland you got, put a little cabin on the back of it for me. I don't need electricity. I need a propane hot water heater. That's all I need because I want hot water. Because a lot of these, like when you go off grid and then there's no hot water, I'd like to take a hot shower. That's all I need. Give me a little bit of propane out there. That's all I need. Some books, some coffee, some whiskey.
McKay and I were talking about kidnapping you and going and camping out there.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
You don't have to kidnap me. I'm in.
We may have to. We just wanted to kidnap you. We're going to dart you like a rhinoceros.
That'd be cool.
Like you'll just be going to a coffee shop and not know it.
We're just like Will Ferrell shooting himself in the neck.
Yeah.
You're crazy, man. You're crazy. And then I go down. That'd be a hard fall. I might break my pelvis.
No, you've seen Wild Kingdom. You remember watching that show? Yeah, and they just kind of like stumble and then try to catch themselves and then stumble and then just, you won't just like hit your head. It'll be okay.
No, yeah. It's not instant. It's kind of like going out with anesthetic.
Hey, what happened? What? Hey, thump like that.
Wait a minute.
And then
was that me? Was that me?
Yeah. And then we're gonna put a little chain around your feet and just use the hoist to get you in the back of my truck, and we'll throw a blue tarp over you.
I'll just hang upside down like a bat.
Yeah,
because you chain my feet.
No, you'll be laying back there.
Oh, I'll lay you. Yeah. Lay me back,
and we'll throw a blue tarp over you, and
you're gonna take me off grid and go camping.
Yeah, for the deprogramming.
Yeah, you're gonna just really red pill me.
That's right. Yeah, so a deprogramming session.
I hope I don't wake up with my butthole hurting. That'd be bad.
That's every day. It's gonna feel better than ever.
Is it? You want to do some questions?
Brian says, I'm a beginner from Belmont, Ontario, Canada in my 6th week of LP, and I'm really struggling with moving up on the bench press and the overhead press. He's 5'11", 230 pounds. He doesn't say how old he is, but he's squatting 320, deadlift 320. You're one of those guys.
Yeah.
Bench press 175, overhead press 110. He says, you guys are great and really enjoy your podcast. Looking forward to your response. There's no question. This is a field report.
Right. But he wants to know how to drive his bench press and press up.
Yeah.
That was basically the gist.
This is what happens, man.
Yeah. So what happens is because in the way we sort of lay out linear progression in the beginning is there's just not a lot of frequency on those lifts. And so you can make progress for a little while. There's a lot less muscle mass to continue to drive up heavy weights. And so less muscle mass and less frequency equal almost always hitting a wall first on those. And our experience is that more volume via more frequency seems to do a pretty good job of driving those back up again. And so that is one of the main reasons we'll tend to go to a 4-day split is because you just end up with not enough stress. And it's about where you're at right now. The fact that you're squatting and deadlifting 320-ish, you're bench pressing 175 and pressing 110 tells me that, like your press and your bench press are a little behind your squat and your deadlift, and they're probably not getting enough stress now. Would be my best guess. Again, not knowing how old you are and some of those things, but I mean, you weigh 231, and so you weigh enough to be able to you certainly should be able to drive your bench press up to a body weight bench press. So you're going to have to probably move to a 4-day split. You're going to have to do some more volume work, stuff like 5 sets of 5 on those volume days for the pressing movements.
Yep, it's just going to take more work. Yep. Nobody wants to hear that, but that's what it is almost.
But
certainly.
When you go, as we talked about before, when you move to that 4-day split, you actually get to do a little less work on the lower body lifts.
Yep.
And often keep driving those up. So you pull some of the work off the lower body and you put it on the upper body, and it seems to balance everything out pretty nice.
Yes. More pressing. Vince says, I was griping about how when someone starts out an email or a comment with "so," almost certainly everything that follows is fixing to be a bunch of bullshit.
Right.
Vince says, "So is a great way to start some things. Check out Seamus Haney's Beowulf translation."
Beowulf starts with the word "so."
Well, Seamus Haney's does. Seamus Haney is a poet, and 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 years ago, I don't know, he came out with a translation of Beowulf, which is pretty good, and it rhymes. So, I don't know how good a translation can be if you translate it into a new language and it rhymes. But it starts out, "So, the Spear Danes in days gone by and the kings who ruled them had courage and greatness. We have heard of these princes' heroic campaigns." Off it goes. Yeah, maybe that's okay. But if I get an email that starts with that, it's almost certainly going to be rubbish.
I remember English for honors my senior year. We read Beowulf in like 4 different historical translations, like the actual Old English, which you can't even read. Right. And then like sort of King James-ish English, I don't know, 1500s English, and then something like the 1800s or early 1900s, and then today's. It was really interesting. I remember, and then they put them side by side. Yeah. It was really interesting.
Go read the Tolkien one. His starts out, "Lo, the glory of the kings of the people of the Spear Danes in days of old, we have heard tell how those princes did deeds of valor."
See, now this is a pretty good, what if, as just a rule, if you decided to start an email with "so," you just change it to "lo."
You got my attention. You're on probation.
Comma. You're like, "Lo, Scott and Matt." I'd be like, okay. Yeah. Better than "so." Also, don't end it with "thoughts."
Thoughts. Oh, blood. That original Beowulf is pretty tough. Canterbury Tales, you can read that one.
Yeah.
Like you can go get the Oxford English Dictionary. You can plow through that. It's kind of fun.
Well, it's fun because it's Chaucer was like the original. Who's the movie director that's always telling multiple storylines? Tarantino.
Oh yeah.
He's like the original Tarantino. You've got these like little storylines you can follow, and so it can hold your attention, and then it sort of changes to a different storyline, right? And then, if I remember right, it's been 25 years since I've read Chaucer. Yeah, and then it kind of comes back, and they interweave a little bit.
Yeah, each of the people making the trip to Canterbury Cathedral, they take turns telling stories.
I remember the gapped tooth woman was the
wife of Bath,
large bosom.
Yeah, she's a dirty girl.
I always liked her. I liked her. She was my favorite character.
Jeff says, "Big fan of the podcast. Thank you for all the content you continue to produce." He says, "My question is, Matt mentioned in a recent Q&A he has started and stopped many podcasts, just like we all do. What are some of the other podcasts, fitness or otherwise, that make your playlist?" Well, you have to listen to the Online Great Books podcast with Scott and Carl.
It is on mine. I'm pulling up my Overcast right now. So I got OGB. I actually don't have I have very few in my podcast. Art of Manliness. I listen to a lot of Brett's. I think Brett is a good interviewer. He's
he's very good.
I learn from Brett how to interview people well, even though we don't do very many of those here. And of course, who he interviews makes a big difference, right? Because he's really behind the curtain on those. Sometimes you just do an interview that's the person's just not that interesting, or I'm not that interested in the topic.
Brett has told me that he really likes to interview all those authors because they're word people. Like they've got their storytellers, know, and some of them are maybe soft spoken or whatever, but they have something to say, and he can only drag that out of them.
I listen to about 25% of the Joe Rogan podcast at this point, so. Yeah. I know you used to listen to it all the time. You don't listen to it much anymore. No. It's for me, the Joe Rogan podcast is entirely based on who is on it. So if there's somebody on it that I want to hear, they're just so long, like 3 hours long. I tell you what, we don't talk about this very much. I've got the OGB actually OGB podcast is right between Rogan and Ferriss. I really like Tim Ferriss. I listen to Tim Ferriss' podcast a lot, and I like his guests more than Rogan. His guests are much more business oriented. Rogan will have a lot more sort of political people or talking about the kind of political climate of the day. There's one I've been listening to lately that's a fun one called Business Wars. It's by Wondery. It's cool. I like it. And they'll do like a series on, like they have a series on Netflix versus Blockbuster. It's great. So Blockbuster was the king, and like Reed Hastings had made a little bit of money in a previous business and then built up Netflix, and he kind of saw what was coming all along, and Blockbuster fought it. And of course, Blockbuster has since gone bankrupt, and Netflix is Netflix. So they've got a bunch of those. They got one on browser wars, there's a whole like 6 or 7 part series about sort of like Microsoft versus Netscape. So that's a fun. There's always one or two podcasts I don't listen to that are kind of fun ones that aren't super super intense. What about you? You got some other ones you like to listen to?
I listen to History of England podcast. I listen to the School Sucks podcast.
Yeah.
I listen to a bunch of like old radio shows.
Oh, that's cool.
Like old time radio shows. I'll listen to like Gunsmoke.
That's awesome.
On the they're like rebroadcasts.
Oh, I bet those are great.
You don't have to listen to them too hard. It's I listen to those when it's time to go to bed.
Each episode independent of the others? Like they're all like a little short story, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. Have you listened to that any?
I have not.
Dude, he's so good.
Oh, no, wait a minute. I have listened to him.
The thing about Carlin is Carlin speaks as though it's an overproduced NPR style podcast. And NPR puts that up. Like if you want to listen to quality podcasts, like you don't have to agree with everything. I certainly don't agree with everything NPR says, but the quality level of their podcast, the production value is outstanding. Carlin speaks like that. And it's not produced that way. He sits down and actually talks. It is so polished, his speech, and he's clearly not reading from he doesn't, because I've heard interviews with him. He doesn't read from a transcript. He's got like 3x5 note cards with bullet points,
right?
And he talks. But his series on World War I is unbelievable. He's got a bunch of good stuff. So his stuff is good. I'll go through if I have to do like a long drive. And I want to listen to like a big series, like a historical series. His stuff's pretty good.
His boomer takes drive me nuts.
His what? Boomer takes?
Yeah.
When you listen to him, like when he starts to give his own.
Yeah, his takes on history are a little.
I get it.
A little pedestrian.
Well, we are the cursed generation, Generation X, saddled here between the boomers and the millennials. So what are you going to do?
Dan Carlin, he is the accepted keeper of the narrative at this point.
Well, it's a pretty good narrative, but I understand. You're right.
So let's talk about Netflix for a minute.
Okay.
Get you a glass of water to wash this red pill down with. You ready?
Okay.
One of the founders' name is Mark Randolph.
Of Netflix?
Uh-huh.
Yep.
His middle name is Bernays Randolph.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, he is definitely the descendant of, and I think the great-grandson of Edward Bernays.
Okay.
Edward Bernays wrote a book called Propaganda. And supposedly Joseph Goebbels carried the copy of that around in his pocket.
Really?
And yes, the modern advertising movement has much to thank Bernays and his book Propaganda for.
Interesting.
Like it was written.
Randolph was really the guy that he was really the guy that orchestrated the relationship at the end there between Netflix and Blockbuster, and they were both trying to do what each other was doing, but not very well. And then I don't know, man. So it's still like some of the stuff that the things that Netflix like.
Listen, I'm not done.
Okay, go ahead.
In 1928, Bernays writes this book, Propaganda, and he's like,
"Now you're sure this is that." Hold on, you're sure this is his
100%
offspring? Sure. Okay.
100% sure. Not his offspring. I think he's the grandson.
Nephew.
Of.
Well, that's what I mean, though. But he's
a direct relative. His middle name is Bernays.
Right. He was named after him. Okay, I get it.
And Bernays is the father of propaganda and public relations. There are a lot of critiques out there about him being the Machiavelli of the 20th century.
Right.
I don't think there's anything expressly evil about Propaganda. Carl and I are reading it for the Great Books podcast. We're going to be covering it here in a few months. Bernays was the uncle.
Wait, what are you reading? What Propaganda. Are you reading? Who wrote? That's a book?
Yes, Edward Bernays' book, 1928 book, Propaganda.
The name of his book is actually Propaganda.
Yes.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, he coined the term.
Okay, so he's the guy that kind of came up with the idea of spin.
Using rhetoric and psychology to manipulate public opinion and behavior. His direct descendant was the founder of Netflix. Bernays is the nephew of Sigmund Freud.
Really? Interesting.
But, everything just happens,
Interesting.
Like, just somebody just decides you're going to have a streaming service, and it just happens, and it's just a coincidence that his grandfather's the Machiavelli of the 20th century and wrote the book Propaganda that the state has used to manipulate people since 1928, and then his uncle is Sigmund Freud, and he wrote Civilization and Its Discontents, and, is the father of modern psychoanalysis, and it's just, but shit just happens, It's the free market, Matt.
That's what I heard.
It just happens. Yeah. Good
so
times.
you're not a Netflix guy, is what you're telling me.
No, they hate you. They want you dead. And if they don't want you dead, they want your life taken away from you in terms of sitting on the couch and looking forward and watching the thing.
I mean, I get it. But
the propaganda that they've created for you. And now they create their own content.
Yeah, well, see, but that's what's so crazy about it, that they were so...
Matt, that's the plan all along.
It was
he's
so
the director.
forward thinking. I know they knew what was coming, though, right? So here's the crazy thing.
Wait a minute. Do they know what's coming, or do they know what they want to happen?
Well, I understand, but listen, it was really, really. There were many, many times that Netflix was almost killed. Like, it barely made it.
How did it barely make it?
Well, because they were forward thinkers.
I
get it.
Mother Hubbard.
Yeah.
Don't believe me, guys.
It was wild.
Go check
so
it out.
they go to these movie production companies and these TV channels, the whatever they are, the networks, and they go like, hey, and not just the big networks, but like some of the smaller ones, right? They're going to like A&E, and because Breaking Bad was like a big deal for Netflix, because they were like, well, let us have Breaking Bad, but it'll always be after. We won't run it as in the new seasons. We'll just run all the old seasons on Netflix. And so A&E is like, and we'll pay you a bunch for that, or whatever. I think A&E was who made Breaking Bad. So they did that a bunch. But they saw ahead of time, they were like, listen, the day's coming when every one of these production companies, every one of these channels are going to have their own streaming service, and they're not going to sell us these TV shows anymore. And so that's when they launched House of Cards years ago. They were like, we've got to come out with our own thing.
About political intrigue.
Yeah, interesting, huh? And now
it's actually not. I mean, everything I watch, I see this. I'm like, I'm out.
I get it. But now Netflix has, I think, more Netflix original TV shows than they have non-original TV shows. I saw. Did you see? They've got a. Do you own? You're not a Netflix guy, but I assume you guys have Netflix, right? Or no?
Mm-mm.
You don't have Netflix. So they just had a movie come out.
I don't give money to people who hate me and want to manipulate me.
I get it. So they got a movie that just came out called The Italian. It's a Scorsese movie. It's like a first-run movie that Netflix paid them enough money. It's De Niro and Pacino and Joe Pesci. Like, I mean, they're massive stars. It's a 3-hour movie. Netflix original Scorsese movie. Didn't go to theaters. They paid the money to have it go straight to Netflix. Which is the next thing, right? So, like, I don't want to go to a movie theater if I can just watch it at my house.
Yeah, they'll pick what you watch, and then you can sit there, and they'll just put it right in your cornea, and then you can just
what's the difference between that and go into a movie theater that has
I don't do that either.
Different films, right? I know you don't watch anything; you just read books.
Yeah. Luke says, "Thanks so much for all the content you put out. I hope you enjoy this show, Luke." He said he started LP about 3 months ago, and his question is, when do you go to a 4-day split on or a Wednesday light day? He failed both on his deadlift at 440 and the overhead press at 180, 332. If he says he's 6 feet tall, 228 pounds, is squatting 380 for 3x5. He's got this press he just mentioned. His best deadlift was 435 for 5. Thanks again for all you do. By the way, this is we use Gmail, and at the bottom, It's just got these suggestions for replies.
Right.
The first suggestion here at the bottom is thoughts.
Is it?
Yeah. It's so stupid.
Are they the enemy too? Gmail?
Oh, probably.
Should we stop using them?
Yeah. Yeah. If you're so degenerate that you have to state that your goal is don't be evil,
then you're evil.
Methinks the men protest too much. Yeah.
Right.
I don't really have to worry about not being evil.
I would argue against that, but that's okay.
Well, there are all manners of sins, Matt Reynolds.
I would agree with that.
And there are a whole bunch of them I don't have to worry about.
Yes, I would also agree.
There are none that those guys don't have to worry about.
I don't know that that's true either. You mean because they have to deal with not literally
No,
them
they're degenerates. They don't have a good moral compass. They're degenerates. They're selling your data, putting porn results out for, PCs and mobile devices they know that children are in.
By the way,
affecting the political, environment.
I saw some channel I follow on Instagram that'll do stuff like, it'll do like GDP over the last 50 years by country, right? And then it'll like 1960, 1961, 1962, and you can watch it, and it's just graphed out. And I watched one the other day that was top 10 websites in the world, right? And so you could see like in 1995 or whatever, it's like Alta Vista, it's like 2 of the top 10 pornography sites now. 2 of the top 10 websites in the world are pornography websites.
Yeah. Yep. They don't want to send traffic to onlinegreatbooks.com, but they will send it to all of those sites.
Isn't that that's unbelievable?
They're terrible.
Well, by the way.
There are all these things that they want to do. I mean, they want to be socially active in so many ways, and I think we're all aware of that. But there are a bunch of ways they're not interested in it.
Right. Well, and I mean, but I also think it's a clear reflection of like how broken society is in general in humanity. It plays into my Calvinism pretty well. Right. Those are the two of the top 10 websites on earth are these hideously evil websites.
They promote them.
And because it feeds into humanity's natural tendency toward depravity.
Yeah, and especially if you serve up search results like that to kids, take their innocence away, start putting that stuff in their eyeball when they're 6.
Right. Like
now you've got
how
them.
many kids make it in the United States today to 12 having never seen it?
39 Amish kids.
Right. Literally. I mean,
yeah.
I bet it's 0%. Like it's closer to 0 than it is to 1. Like there's obviously outliers.
That's probably true.
That's so fucked up.
Yeah, and and they could improve that. Google could make that
when
better.
I was in South Korea, and
but they don't really mean don't be evil. They don't really mean that.
I mean, you know that I lean libertarian, but when I was in South Korea, there's no pornography. None.
Nope.
You cannot access it.
Oh God, how oppressive!
Right.
Oh, they're just not very free, are they?
Right. There's massage parlors there, but no pornography. But so they got.
Well, there's no danger of your 8-year-old stumbling into a massage parlor getting a hand
job. That is true,
job.
actually. In fact, that is true. That's true. Yeah. See, that's the problem. Is like no matter what you try to do as a parent to try to put the limits on your kiddos to not like. They have friends that don't have those.
Yep.
I mean, like friends at church at Sunday school. They're like, hey, let me show you something.
Oh, you can't send your kids to church. Or church is the haven of those people.
Or
you can't
even,
go there.
I mean, for us, like even like homeschool co-op. You know, you send them to a homeschool co-op. It's the same thing. You're still like, there's still 2 or 3 of them.
Yep.
That have access to that stuff, and they want to show everybody, right? All right, are we done ranting for the day? Did we answer that guy's question?
No, poor Luke. Hey, Luke, you're ready. You're ready to go to a 4-day split. When in doubt, just do it because it doesn't hurt. Even if it's a little premature, it's just going to slow your progress just a tiny bit, and you'll get that new schedule and get that new habit of training 4 times a week, and you'll just love it anyway. If anybody out there thinks, I wonder if I should go to a 4-day split, go ahead.
Just do
risks,
it'll be fine.
What are the risks, Matt? Nothing?
Well, it's pretty low, and actually I've got a bunch of clients that have come on I took on some new clients just because I felt like it was time to have some fresh blood in it. For online coaching, I'm not taking any more new clients, so don't email because I don't have any more openings. But I put a bunch of them on a 4-day split LP, and it works fine. Like they're pretty strong already. They've kind of already done sort of an LP that they probably screwed up a little bit in the past. And so I just put them on a 4-day split LP from the very beginning because what I did was I looked at their press and their bench press, and they were strong, and I was like, ooh, if I put you on 1.5 times bench press a week, that's not going to be enough. Because they're doing 275 for 3 sets of 5 on the bench press. And so I'm like, okay. So I put them on 4-day split LP, fine.
People over 45 that are even just ranked novices never touched it. Start him there. It's fine.
Yeah,
4-day split, LP on 4-day split. It's good.
Nothing wrong with it.
I like it a lot.
I think it's fun. That's the other thing. It's like, we've talked about this without going down another rabbit hole, but it's just like training can't always be fun. It's not the primary goal of training, but I do think if you can make training enjoyable and you can be like, man, I really kind of enjoy what I'm doing right now, then I think that's better than not, especially if the training is valuable and it's still doing what we want it to do. And to me, I can't stand doing full body days. I do not want to squat and then press or bench press and then have to go deadlift. I don't like doing it personally. And so when I come back and do LP, we talk about like when I come back from a layoff, which I've been training pretty hard now for a little while and getting decently strong again. I've just come back and done a 4-day split LP. Yep. So I come in every day and I squat and deadlift on day 1 and day 3, and I press and bench press on day 2 and day 4. That's it, right? There's usually a day there in the middle, like I'll go Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday or something. And it works just fine. And I just keep adding weight to the bar every single time. I pulled 500 for 5 the other day. Pretty easy, real easy actually. Squatting 405 for 5 again. So I'm getting there. I'm doing all my bench presses for 8s because my pecs.
Yeah, I have been too.
I just don't want to. I don't want to tear my pecs anymore. So.
Charity and I are going to go do that couples meet in Fort Worth at Darren's gym.
I didn't know there was a couples meet. When is it?
Yeah, you do 4 lifts. The two of you have to do the 4 lifts.
Right.
And you each have to do 1 upper and 1 lower. So, I'm going to have charity press and squat, and I'm going to pull and bench. So I got to start doing some heavy singles here on my bench.
When is it?
It's a week from tomorrow.
Oh, so there's not enough time for us to train and come and...
Well, I mean, it's not enough time for me and charity either. Go ahead and go.
I didn't even know it was coming. Rachel hasn't really trained.
Well, go on down anyway. Well, it doesn't matter. We're not even going to try to get a total. We just want to do okay do it for fun. And just see everybody.
Yeah. I'd like to see Darren's gym. That'd be cool.
Yeah, come on, go do that. Tell me this.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a possibility that LP with the 4-day split sets the lifter up for longer term progress and success?
Probably not. I don't know. For absolute beginners, I just think it depends on the demographic. Again, if you're talking about, we've always sort of talked about the standard demographic being the young male, which isn't necessarily the standard demographic, but if it's
the optimal demographic.
Yeah, the optimal demographic, right? It's the 17 to 30-year-old guy. And I think that guy needs to squat 3 times a week and probably pull 3 times a week for as long as he can. And I do think that I don't think that's optimal for bench press and press, but I think it's pretty easy to catch your bench press and press back up when you switch to the 4-day split. And so, I don't know. I think it's I think you would make better. You're going to make better progress, especially that first 2 months or so doing that standard squat 3 times. I think a lot of it too is just the practice of the squat. The squat's hard to learn, so getting that extra session of practice in the beginning, I think, is very helpful. And then the systemic stuff, right? So there's not a tremendous amount of systemic stress in those upper body days, but there are on the lower body days, and there definitely are on the full body days. And so I think there's something to be said there too. I'm sure there are some people. It probably doesn't matter that much, I'd say.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to milk anything extra out of the press or the bench press by doing it.
I do think you will make much longer progress for 99% of the people if you'll start just deadlifting and not do power cleans or rows or anything from the beginning. Just deadlift. It's fine. Nothing wrong with that. If we could get these strong lifts people to stop doing 5 sets of 5 on everything, they'd be okay. So if we can back them off just a little.
They eventually stop.
They get it right. That's right. And then they have to change it. So, all right, we've been going for an hour.
Yeah, let's do one more here. Jacob,
are you serious? It's the longest Q&A in history. Watch it it'll be 23 minutes by the time Trent's done cutting it down.
There are all kinds of people that talk about barbell stuff.
That's true. Where can you hear about
Mark Bernays Randolph?
Yeah.
Or
I guarantee you that's the first time in the history of any fitness podcast that guy's ever been mentioned.
It's criminal. All right. Jacob says he's nearing the end of LP. He started doing a back-off day on Wednesday with 80% squats. He says, I'm wondering if it's beneficial to switch to bottom-up squats off the safety pins on that day instead. He's 37, 6 feet tall. He's 230 pounds. He's squatting 355 for a set
Does
of
he say
five.
why he wants to do that? Why that lift over something else?
He doesn't say.
No, that's not a good lift. So listen, it's not. Let me be clear. Pin squats are not the same thing as bottoms up squats.
Bottom up squat. You have the bar resting on the safeties.
It starts on the pins, and then you get up underneath it.
You're standing across the room, and then you walk over there and fold up like an accordion.
Yeah.
And somehow try to get underneath that.
Yeah,
thing.
and I'm not saying that's a completely worthless exercise, but that is definitely something for advanced lifters only and very rare.
Have you ever programmed a bottom-up squat?
I did when I did strongman, because occasionally we would have something like that in strongman we'd have to do. But outside of that, I haven't done it for like a strength athlete or person who's just trying to get generally stronger powerlifter. A pin squat I actually like, and I almost always will tempo a pin squat, right? So I want like a 3-second descent. When I say, and it's actually pretty rare that I'll tempo the ascent on a squat. It's certainly if somebody shifts their weight on the ascent on a squat, then I'll tempo the ascent as well. I just don't like I think it teaches bad habits to go slow, but slow on the way down. I'll do something like that, right? You could do a tempo squat or a box squat or a tempo pin squat. What I like about a tempo pin squat is it forces you to stay really balanced on midfoot and keep the barbell absolutely parallel to the ground. If it's not, then one side is going to hit before the other one. Bing, bing, and then it throws you sideways a little bit, and then you come back up. So I think it teaches people to control the weight a little bit better. So I like that on a light day, just fine. I like a box squat on a light day, just fine. I like a pause squat, just fine on a light day. Every
now and then I'll do a bottom up squat. Somebody will get smashed, and they'll with 275. I'm like, yeah, I'll just get under there and stand
up
I can
with
do it. But
but then you're like, ugh, this sucks. How'd you like to do 400 that way?
Horrific.
Yeah. So unless you have a specific reason for doing that exercise, I don't think that exercise is the best choice for you.
Dylan says that our episode on speed work, dynamic effort, came at a perfect time for him.
Good, man.
He says one thing he didn't think we talked about, or if we did, he missed it. He says it's the absolute weight on the bar. He says he watched an Andy Baker video on the topic, which he says that your dynamic effort weight should be at least 270 for squat, 185 for bench, and 315 for deads in order for you to reap much benefit from it. His best singles would be
Andy actually gives those exact numbers.
That's what Dylan claims here.
Okay.
He says, I don't qualify for any of Andy's cutoffs, so I ruled this out for the time being. And he said, and then he has a second question. We'll go ahead and put it in here. He says, my second question is about performing them as volume work following an intensity lift.
Yep. I do that all the time.
Yeah. What do you think about this?
I understand
that it needs to be significantly heavy.
Well, again, so not knowing exactly what Andy said, and I will say that I tend to agree with the vast majority of things that Andy says when it comes to programming. I'm sure what Andy meant was you should be pretty strong before you do speed work. That's probably what Andy's saying. Like, you should be pretty strong. It's hard. You and I have gotten into this a couple times in the podcast, especially in the early days, where we would give sort of, well, you should be able to get your LP press up to this. And everybody's like, oh my God. And then we were like, yeah, okay, look, obviously outliers, and there's a massive spectrum there. And so I do think you should be generally strong. Picking those numbers are hard because what if the person's, 5'2" versus 6'7"? What if they're, so you should have at least between a 1.5 and 1.75x body weight squat.
How about if I say this? You probably shouldn't screw with that dynamic effort stuff unless your mesocycle's at least a month.
Yeah, that's for sure. For sure.
So if it takes you at least a month of hard work to get a PR, you might be
that's about the right
qualified. So whatever the weight could be, and you might be a 70-year-old lady and it's not very heavy,
sure,
or a small person, or a giant person. Like I've got a guy, he's out in the gym right now. Charity's coaching him, and he's squatting way into Andy. He's moving all of Andy's numbers here. He doesn't need dynamic effort,
right?
It's
that's
too
the
easy
problem
for
with
him.
those numbers. Yeah, so if you go to, everybody ends up going to a 1 week program at some point, right? We've talked about that before, a Texas method style or a HLM type style. program, and then you'll often cycle that exact same style of training. So you'll do like a 3-week long Texas or HLM or a 4-week long Texas or HLM. You often do that, and you don't usually need those supplemental movements, and you don't need speed work yet. But after that, that's when you start to go, okay, now it might be time to bring in either supplemental exercises or some of those speed movements.
Dynamic effort. Yep, it sure is helpful, but you don't want to mess with that until you really need it. Well, there's another Barbell Logic show.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a question and answer show
performance
or not, but there's some more infotainment.
It's a Barbell
for you
Logic
guys.
performance.
That's right.
For you.
Hey, go send this one to a friend. Send this to a friend who loves Paul Krugman, who loves Google, loves Netflix. Send it to a friend who loves Black Friday sales, a friend who loves It's a Wonderful Life and reserve banking, fractional reserve banking. And then maybe that'll help them come around to
probably
the right
won't
way
the
of
first
thinking.
time. It'll get us a few 1-star reviews, but eventually they'll come around. And listen, obviously, I'm not there yet. I love Netflix, and I love It's a Wonderful Life. I love watching It's a Wonderful Life on Netflix.
That's terrible.
Sorry, man.
Yeah, it's not good.
I'm depraved too. I get it.
Yeah, so guys, use DuckDuckGo, use the Brave browser.
Use DuckDuckGo.
Yeah, let's not be helping these
God.
guys. Let's not be helping these guys.
Here we are paying for Google PPC all day.
Yeah.
You're telling people not to use it. Thanks, dude.
Yeah. Send your questions. Send your questions to questions@barbell-logic.com, and we'll answer those things on a future show. And as always, go to barbelllogic.com and sign up for the Friday Fives. That's our newsletter. We don't ever sell your address to anybody. We just send you a newsletter on Fridays. That's what it is.
That's what it is.
Because when they ban us from the iTunes Store and Google Play, we'll still know how to get in touch with each other with the Friday Fives,
Because we control that. That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening.
If you want to hear me yell about more crazy shit, you can go to scotthamburg.com and see that, because that's all it is.
Perfect. Talk to you guys in a few days.
All right. Bye.